Imagine reaching for tomato sauce in the canned goods aisle, only to hear the exact, distinctive cough of the husband you buried 6 months ago. The sound hits Grace like a physical blow. Her hand freezes. She drops the jar. Grace had spent 41 years building a life with Robert. When a ladder accident supposedly took him, that life stopped. She spent the next half year waking up to silence, clutching his side of the bed, and trying to remember how to breathe in an empty house. When she turns around in that grocery store, the man standing 3 shelves down has Robert's broad shoulders and the silver hair that refuses to lie flat. She approaches him, desperate, but he backs away. He calls himself James. He speaks carefully, treating her like a fragile stranger. Then Grace asks to see his left hand. He lifts it, revealing a crooked pinky finger, the one Robert broke at 15 while fixing his mother's roof. That specific physical anomaly redefines her reality. Twins do not share identical childhood scars. Strangers do not carry the same injuries etched into their bone. Grace realizes her 6 months of profound mourning were likely based on a deliberate, massive deception. Grace follows him out of the parking lot, staying 3 car lengths back. She tracks his faded white sedan through streets she knows and into a modest neighborhood she doesn't. He pulls up to a pale green house with wind chimes hanging near the porch. Parked down the street, she watches the front door open. A woman in her 50s walks out, greeting him with a familiar kiss on the cheek. Seconds later, 2 children burst through the doorway. They run straight to him, arms wide, shouting for their grandpa. He crouches down, catching the children with practiced ease. He lets out a warm, lopsided laugh, the exact sound Grace thought she would never hear again. Now she watches him give that warmth to a completely separate family. Every detail confirms the impossible. Her husband is alive and laughing with a family that isn't hers. It leaves one question. If Robert is carrying groceries into this house, who is buried under the marble headstone with his name on it? That night, the house feels like a stage set built on a lie. Grace spreads 41 years of family photos across her kitchen table. Beside them, she pins the sauce-stained grocery list under a glass of water, physical evidence from a man supposed to be dead. At 3:40 in the morning, she calls her son, Nathan. He arrives 40 minutes later, immediately trying to gaslight her. He asks about her medication, telling her that grief does strange things to the mind. Grace doesn't argue. She forces him into the car and drives to the pale green house. They sit in the dark until sunrise, watching the man walk out the front door. Nathan doesn't act surprised. Instead, his face goes pale. He grips the steering wheel until his knuckles turn white and begins to sob. Nathan's collapse confirms the truth. His apology isn't for her confusion. It's for his own knowledge. Grace stops crying. The grief has burned itself out, leaving behind a sharp, clinical focus. She ignores Nathan's messages and watches him pull into her driveway from the upstairs window, refusing to open the door. She is no longer a victim. She is a witness. She spends the next week working from the edges of her own life. She hires a private investigator to track the fake birth certificate and an attorney to trace the frozen assets. She uncovers bank accounts opened under the name James Keller, containing nearly $2 million. To finalize the evidence, Grace invites Nathan to a quiet lunch. She lets her voice soften, playing the role of the confused mother who just wants to understand. As Nathan explains the logistics of the forged signatures and the asset transfers, he doesn't notice the small recorder running in her purse. Nathan speaks freely, assuming his mother is too broken to retaliate. That while he eats, Grace's legal team uses his recorded admissions to cross-reference the fraudulent ledgers, providing the district attorney with the precise evidence needed for an indictment. The legal execution is swift. Warrants are issued, and Nathan is taken into custody at dawn. The court formally invalidates the James Keller identity, freezing every account Robert used to build his second life. Grace makes one final trip to the pale greenhouse. She walks straight to the backyard where Robert is standing with his tools. As his second wife looks on in confusion, Grace calmly hands him the legal documents that dismantle his fabricated existence. 3 weeks later, Robert suffers a fatal heart attack in a holding facility while awaiting trial. Grace refuses to hold a service, ordering his ashes scattered at sea. Nathan accepts a plea deal, receiving a prison sentence for financial fraud and forgery. Grace stands at the grave that holds a nameless stranger. She reaches into her pocket, pulls out the crumpled grocery list, and places it on the cold stone. That grave does not hold her husband. It holds the innocence of the woman she used to be. She walks away, leaving both behind.